Right, another day, another policy change by the this administration in terms of Social Security um, overpayments this time. So they've retreated a whole heck of a lot over the last 100 days. I'm going to do a video tomorrow about the first 100 days, the Social Security version. You have to go to the office. You don't have to go to the office. You can call. You can't call. There's 20 million people over 120 years old receiving Social Security benefits. They're not receiving, so it's all crazy. But today I'm going to talk about overpayments. They changed the default withholding of overpayments, and a lot of people out there say, "Well, this has no relevance to me because I don't have an overpayment." Well, you don't now. With the cutting of the staff of Social Security, there are going to be a lot more mistakes happening. And the fact that they are, the people that kept the Social Security computer system together with essentially, bubble gum and string, they were effectively, voluntold to leave the premises. So the computer systems have been going down more over the last several weeks. So this is some good information in case you or someone does get an overpayment letter. This is kind of the beginning of the year. Tax season was just completed, and this is the time when people start getting overpayments based on 2024. So let's go over the new policy. That is, so we've had the overpayment policy default, which was a couple of 3 months ago, where they would default if you have an overpayment, they would automatically take 10% of your Social Security check if you have an overpayment. And then they changed it to 100%. So if you have an overpayment, they're going to take 100% of your check. And now they've come out of just recently, a few days ago, and said, okay, no, we're going to do 50%. So within about a month or two, it went from 10 to 100, now back to 50. All right. So what does all of that mean? I see a lot of people out there in social media land don't really understand overpayments. They report that news and then they don't really know anything other than what they talk about in the news. So they can't really help you out in case you get an overpayment. So let's talk about that today. All right. So what does all this mean? 10%, 100%, 50%. Basically, if you get an overpayment, you'll get a letter in the mail and it'll say, okay, based on your earnings from last year or some mistake the Social Security computer system did, or somebody pushed the wrong button, or somebody is working under your Social Security number and they did this, that, and the other, whatever the case, you'd say, well, I'm receiving retirement benefits. I've been receiving retirement benefits for 10 or 20 years, so I won't get overpaid. I hope that's true. But just in case, they will withhold 50% going forward on new overpayments. If you currently you currently have an overpayment and you're currently in a payment plan, this is not going to affect you. It's going to your whatever negotiation you made for your payment plan for your overpayment now, that's going to continue. This is for new overpayments going forward. So if you get that letter, it'll say on there, the bottom of the letter, it says, okay, you have an overpayment of $1,000, $10,000, $400,000, whatever the case may be. And you have to basically, it says right out, it says, send us a check, bring your briefcase down to money to the local Social Security office and pay us what you owe us. Almost nobody ever does that. They give you 60 days to address the issue. So this is the key. This is a lot of a lot of the social media people out there are missing. They think, well, if you have an overpayment, they're just going to withhold your benefits. No, that is not correct. They will if you don't reach out to them. And here's the issue: as I talked about when they switched from 10% to 100%, I did a video about this is a terrible, terrible idea of withholding it 100%. Why? Because you can't contact Social Security. They don't pick up the phones. You have to have a reservation to go to the office. In your particular office, maybe the people aren't there anymore. So it was a terrible idea to do 100% because there is no customer service now because Doge and Elon Musk and everybody decided to let everybody, a lot of people go. So you get that overpayment and you have 60 days. What do you do within that 60 days? You figure out what's the deal on the overpayment. If you kind of understand, oh yeah, I worked too much. I made over the annual earnings limit for last year, the $23,400. And yes, it's a viable overpayment. I'll just go ahead and let it ride, and they'll take 50% of my check until I pay it back. So you can do it that way. Or you can contact them within 60 days and say, hey, it's not my fault, or I don't want to do 50%. I can't afford 50%. I want to renegotiate. You can just do this over the phone, set up a payment plan as long as it's within 60 months. They haven't changed that yet. It's May 1st at 3:06 p.m. West Coast time. So as of as of right now, they haven't changed that. So right now, you can call Social Security and say, yes, I just got this letter. I've got this overpayment. Yeah, it's my fault. I know I worked over the annual earnings limit, whatever the case may be. I know it was overpaid. Set me up on a payment plan, 60 months, and then they will withdraw that much from your Social Security check every month. If you're currently not receiving benefits, then you'll have to figure out some type of way to pay them, send in a check or go online and set up a payment plan online. If you completely disagree with it, you have a couple of ways. And on the letter that you receive on the overpayment, it'll tell you the appeals. It'll be a 561 where you just completely disagree with the nature of the overpayment or how much it is. That's the request for reconsideration. If you want to get it waived, to get an overpayment waived, you have to jump over two hurdles. It's not your fault, and you don't have the ability to repay it. So, it wasn't your work. Someone else was working under your Social Security number. So that's obviously not your fault. And yes, you were overpaid that amount, but you're barely scraping by now. And to even withhold $10, $50, $100 a month for that overpayment, you won't be able to pay the rent. So as long as you show them that, if you jump over those two hurdles, then they can just waive the entire overpayment and delete it like it's never happened. Okay. Here's the problem with all of this. This is based on the idea that you will actually receive that overpayment letter. The problem I see going forward is there are going to be people, because they mail it out to the wrong address, they don't have your correct address, post office doesn't deliver it, whatever the case may be, the computer system breaks down again and the letters don't go out, and you're just chugging along, and all of a sudden 50% of your Social Security check is cut, and you're like, what happened? And you call them up and they say, oh, we sent out a letter. Oh, we forgot to send out the letter. Oops. So that's the issue, because there's, Social Security has already been a 50-year low in terms of staffing. And now, staffing for Social Security, your customer service is basically, same it's probably been since, 1935. So if you don't get the letter, you don't know you have overpayment. And then one day you check your bank account and 50% is gone. So if that's the case, then that is a dire need case. Normally, you have to have an appointment to go down to your local Social Security office. But if you have a dire need like that you didn't get your check, you didn't get the letter, and they didn't give you 60 days. Usually they give you 60, and they give you a little bit of kind of a wiggle room there. They don't start withdrawing for like another 30 days after that. But if you don't get the letter, that's not relevant anyway. So if you have that type of dire need, you go down to the local Social Security office and you say, I have a dire need case. And as of right now, May 1st at 3:09 p.m., the policy is they're supposed to let you in if you have a dire need case. If it's a congressional, you've reached out to your congressional representative. It's a terminal illness type of case. You're in the active duty military. There are certain things that they just have to let you in. They have to take care of you immediately. And you paying the rent or being evicted or your electricity or gas is going to be shut off, that is a dire need. So if that happens, you can go into the local Social Security office and say, hey, I got to pay my rent and you withheld 50% of my check. I can't pay my rent. I need that money. And they can actually cut you a check out of the office. I've done this a few 100,000 times, and they will actually cut an old-fashioned check. It doesn't look like a regular treasury check. It's a whole different thing. You take that check, you go down to your local bank. They'll provide you a letter. The local Social Security office will provide you a letter that tells the bank, hey, this is a strange looking check. We know, but here's this person's phone number at the Social Security. I always put my phone number on there, and the bank would call me up and they say, "Hey, we've got John down here with some weird looking check says from Social Security. Is this it?" Yep, that's it. That's a valid check. So go ahead and cash it. So that's how that whole thing works. So hopefully, I've just wasted 10 minutes of your time and you don't get an overpayment, but at least you are prepared, and you are prepared in case anybody around you gets that nasty overpayment letter like that. And you can tell them, don't worry about it. We got you under control. Let's go through the process. So look out for everybody. All right. So I just wanted to clear up the air on overpayments there. So don't worry about it until you get it. Keep an eye on your bank account. If you're missing 50%, then you need to take action immediately, if not sooner. Okay, let's get some, got a live Q&A here, and let's get all the questions. And we'll spend the next 50 minutes answering as many questions as we possibly can. William, what's up, William? You rock. Oh, thank you. What month in 2026 will Social Security review my 2025 wages? What does Social Security use to determine 25 wages? W-2, tax return, something else? Why doesn't Social Security use Social Security wages from W-2 for gross wages? Yeah, if your employer, if you just work for a regular employer, the W-2, it's sent to the IRS and also Social Security. So your wages from that type of employment, if they do it correctly, they send it to Social Security. And what happens as soon as Social Security gets that electronic numbers for 2024, 2025, whatever the case may be, they immediately look at it and determine if that was one of your high 35 years. And if it was one of your high 35 years, then they will recalculate automatically. They'll kick out the low one, they'll stick in that new one and recalculate your benefits, and you just might get an increase. And sometimes I've had people that didn't get that increase until like October. They had some type of W-2, or there was a 1099, or they had self-employment, and Social Security didn't get those numbers until April, May, or June, and so it took a little bit longer. But if Social Security doesn't get those numbers for a while, let's say until October, they will do the recalculations. And if it increases your benefits, it'll increase your benefits, and they'll make it retroactive all the way back to January. So a lot of people, join this live Q&A this last October and August and said, "Hey, Ed, I just got an extra check for $175. Where'd that come from? Did you work last year?" "Yeah, I worked last year." "Was it one of your high years?" "Yeah." There you go. So they increased your benefit by, $5, $10, $15 a month. And then they gave you one lump sum for the previous, 8 or 9 months. So completely 100% automatic. You don't have to do anything, and it's 100% automatic. So all you have to do is file your taxes. Talk to your buddies at the IRS. Should I start collecting my Social Security this year? I will be retired in June at 62. Yeah, that's 100% your decision. Some of the things to think about are, do you need the money? You need the money? Yeah, absolutely. You have to be 62 the entire month. So if you were born on the 1st, then you can start that month. But other than that, you can't start until the next month. And then Social Security always pays a month late. So if you were born on February 2nd or after, you won't get February, you'll get March, and then March check comes in April. So make sure you take that into consideration in case you need to, pay rent and stuff. But should you retire? Yeah, it's completely up to you. Do you need the money? Then get it. Are you working? If you were talking about under, full retirement age, work $1 for every $2 you go over the annual earnings limit. That's the $23,400. Do you have spouses or children waiting for you to start your benefits so they can start benefits? That's a good consideration. Are you healthy? How's your genes? Should you wait until 65, 67, 70? Are you going to live to 100, 120 years old? If you do, then you might want to start at 70. You want to take it and buy an investment. Are you worried about the whole political situation that Social Security benefits are going to be cut in the future because politicians are not addressing the elephant in the room? So that is another consideration. I've talked about that 100 times, so I won't talk about that again today. Let's see. James, my application for ex-spouse benefits has been under review since March 7th. I've talked to a lady in Wichita Falls, Texas twice. Yesterday, my review was changed to KC, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. What should I do? Yeah, ex-spouse benefits, the review. Yeah, there's no review on ex-spouse benefits. I've done millions of those, and there is no review unless, well, nowadays it's all bets are off. Maybe in Wichita Falls, that's Tornado Alley, so maybe they have tornadoes there or something. Hopefully not, but anyway, maybe they lost all the people in that office. All the people were pushed out by Doge, and now they don't have anybody in that office that deals with Title II of the Social Security Act, which I was a Title II claim specialist, and those are the people that handle retirement, Medicare, spouse benefits, survivor benefits. So maybe they don't have anybody in that office anymore to take care of that, so they transferred it to Kansas City. But yeah, if that's strange. That's very, very strange. That if you were married to the person for 10 years, and you're receiving benefits on your own record, and the only thing that could make that a tad bit complicated is if you're looking for independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. If your ex hasn't filed for benefits yet, then that puts a little bit of extra crinkle in there, and it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, March 7th, that's way, way too long. And the reason it's taking too long is because, again, staffing and Social Security, they just don't have the people there. So I would reach out to your politicians and file a congressional. Go on to your two senators, one of those, your House representatives, go on to their website and say, hey, I need my money. What are you doing to improve customer service at Social Security? So I believe what Doge has found. Doge hasn't found anything at Social Security. So there is a lot of fraud, people receiving disability, but, that shouldn't receive disability. People receiving SSI that have changes and stuff like that. But Social Security employees find fraud, waste, and abuse every single day. But yeah, Doge hasn't really found any. Yeah. Definitely not those 20 million zombies receiving, Social Security benefits over 120 years old. That's going to save Social Security. Guess what? You haven't heard anything about that, have you? That they've been receiving money because, as I said before, they were never receiving money. So if they cut Social Security, you will have a lot of homeless seniors. That is a fact. Social Security is by far the most successful anti-poverty program in U.S. history, period, bar none. Particularly amongst seniors, even more so among seniors. So yeah, there's millions and millions and millions of people, seniors, disabled, that just live on Social Security alone. So what if you don't have an overpayment? Mine has been the same every time. Yeah, if you don't have overpayment, you're beautiful. You're awesome. So you're good. So hopefully, everything continues to work out. And I've just wasted 10 minutes of your time talking about overpayment. But in case, I just wanted to, there was some YouTubers out there talking about overpayments that know nothing about Social Security, and they were just giving out some false information. So anyway, Brian, well, if they cut off people's living money, they'll be forced to house and feed them in prison. Yeah. All right, let's see what else. I started early retirement at 62. I will be 68 this month. Yeah, so remember, your benefits will essentially stay the same. Once you file for benefits early, you're essentially locked in. If you continue to receive those benefits, you're pretty much locked in to those benefits. But make sure, Mercy, that if you've got any other benefits out there available, you got any spouses, ex-spouses, divorced spouses, the deceased spouses, or anything like that. Yeah, make sure everything is good there. And then other than that, your Medicare. Make sure you're in the right plan for Medicare. If you're in a Medicare supplement, you can switch your Medicare supplement any time of the year if save you some money. If you're still relatively healthy and depend where you live. But other than that, you're good. But contact Congress and make sure they do something to avoid the cuts in the future. Carol, my friend lost her husband to cancer in his 40s. Wow, way too early. What are her options for his Social Security earnings? She won't be of retirement age for many years. Okay, so For surviving spouse benefits, yeah, you can only start at 60 years old, unless your friend. Number one, thank you, Carol, for looking out for your friend. That's what we're all about here. If your friend is disabled, there's a program called Disabled Widows Benefits. So disabled widows benefits. So between the age of 50 and 59, she can file for, I mean, you can file for disability on your own record at any time. But if she, didn't work because he worked or whatever the case may be, she can actually file for disability on his work record. But it has to be between 50 and 59 that she became disabled. So how far back can they claim overpayments happened? What, way, 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 way back. Social Security, they always have that overpayment on the record. So I've had people that come in, they're 62 years old filing for retirement benefits, and they were receiving child benefits when they were like, 14, 15, 16 years old. And their parents didn't do the right thing, got an overpayment. And then decades later, guy comes in, hey, did you know you have a $3,000 overpayment on your record? We need to talk about collecting that. And usually those are waived. But yeah, they could very well, go all the way. Let's see. This is a nonpartisan information channel. Yes, my one thing I'm partisan on or political on is saving Social Security, making sure Social Security doesn't get cut. So whoever, whatever party says we're going to protect Social Security, that's my party. Asking for a friend. Thank you. She didn't include on her Medicaid application about her IRA. She cashed out because her SSA isn't enough to cover everything. She's scared that she'll go to prison, punishment. Yeah, she's not going to go to prison, something like that. But Medicaid is going to find out, probably. Yeah. So I would have her reach out to Medicaid and kind of pull that Band-Aid off sooner rather than later, because eventually they'll find out. And what will happen is, I think perhaps you were here yesterday was talking about this, and I mentioned, or you're a new person with the same type of situation. But if you get Medicaid and Medicaid pays for your bills for a month or 2 months or 3 months, and then all of a sudden they find out that, oh, wait a second, you had money all of this time. They might say, hey, we're canceling Medicaid and we're not going to pay all those bills back for the last 3 months. So yeah, you don't want that to get that big overpayment like that, or she doesn't want to get that big overpayment. So I would definitely reach out to Medicaid immediately. It depends how much the IRA is and all that kind of stuff, and whether she spent it down, because Medicaid has these spend down things where you say, yes, I had an IRA. I didn't tell you about it because, whatever the case may be, I need to get to my doctor's appointments, and, my old 56 Chevy just doesn't work. And so I had to take the IRA and fix that so I can go to my doctor's appointments. So if you have like spend down type stuff like that, they usually take that into consideration. So, but I would definitely tell her, just don't stick your head in the sand and, wait till, everything drops. Just call Medicaid and say, hey, here's the deal. So Ed said about people not being getting Social Security. I didn't draw first blood. Okay. Oh, Rambo. Okay, let's see. What mechanism is in play that prevents Social Security from tagging all beneficiaries overpayment so they can make a crap ton more dollars? Well, one of the other things that they've also restarted was the Treasury offset. I'm sure you've seen that. If you have a student loan or anything like that, they're going to start coming after your Social Security or any other type of federal benefits, tax returns, anything like that. So, yeah. And with anything like that, any type of government, whether it's a state, local, federal government, if you disagree with something, almost every time you receive a letter like that, it always, always, always has appeal rights. And it says, okay, here's the decision we made, but we want to hear your side of the story. And within however many days, 60 to 90 days, you can appeal it with this form by doing this or doing this other thing. And if you disagree with it, always, always, always fight it. The same thing with, Medicare Advantage. If you get a prior authorization and the accountants at your Medicare Advantage companies, second guess your doctor and say, no, you don't need that heart surgery. You can go, walk it off. You fight it. You always, always, always fight it. I started collecting at 62. I will be, okay, I already answered that one. Tony, it takes 12, 14 years to break even, taking a 62 versus 65. That's one reason to take it at 62. Yeah. And I've done those calculations a few million times, and almost always the break even is about 12 or 14 years. And actually, in my new website, which is very, very close to being done, I've got a calculator in there that tells you, usually these companies charge you to use those calculators. Mine's going to be 100% free as soon as I do the final double check here. Is it true they are sending letters in November? No more SSI money will be stopped. No, no. There was social media people out there talking about, what was it, 2.6 million people are going to be investigated, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And I've talked about this before. It's just the yearly thing. If you're on SSI, SSI, the Supplemental Security Income, the welfare-based program Social Security administers, about RZs, limited issues, redeterminations, basically the same type of thing. It's if you're receiving SSI every 6 months, a year, whatever the case may be, they just review you to make sure you didn't hit the lottery or some big inheritance or something like that. So those are the 2.6 million reviews that some people out in social media are freaking people out about. And that's just par for the course. It was 2.6, 2.5 million last year. It was over 2 million the previous year. And those things have been happening for decades, basically since 1974 when SSI was first started. So, Dr. Ed, I talked with someone at the Social Security office. Please, please, please let them have given a correct answer. Okay, let's see how this goes. A few weeks ago, person checked my records, was told I was paid correctly, and was concerned about one of my 1099s. All was correct. Perfect. All right. So everything has worked out well. Yeah, the 1099, a lot of people miss that. When you get a 1099, that means you're self-employed, you're a contractor. So it's incumbent upon you to actually file those taxes, including the FICA, to pay those FICA, because you're not, that's not a W-2. If you got a regular W-2, you're working for some company, the company, does all that stuff for you. But if you're a 1099, you're your own company. So when you file your taxes, you have to pay your 6.2% Social Security, and you have to pay the employer's 6.2 Social Security, because you're the employee and the employer. And then you pay the 1.45% for Medicare, and the other side of the 1.45% for Medicare as the employer. So a lot of people miss that, and they come in here and they say, "Hey, I was checking my earnings for 1992, and I know I made a lot of money that year, and it shows blank." And then I ask a few questions, and they say, "Oh, I guess I didn't do it right, huh?" So yeah, if you don't pay those taxes, you don't get credit. So unfortunately. Christine, my daughter gets SSDI and Social Security from her deceased father who was disabled. Will they take this away? No, I certainly hope not. There was a senator from Oklahoma that was talking about Social Security shouldn't go to people that didn't pay into it. And so that gives you an idea that this senator has no idea what Social Security is. Nobody receives Social Security unless they paid into it, except people like your daughter, disabled adult children, children under the age of 18, a spouse that never worked can receive benefits on their spouse's record. Disabled widow's benefit can receive benefits from, as a disabled widow, surviving spouse. So families and stuff, there's a lot of people receiving benefits that never paid into it. And Congress has for decades, that's the system they set up. So the senator from Oklahoma is either completely unaware of Social Security works, or he's talking about getting rid of benefits for your children. I just think he's, just doesn't know what he's talking about. So reach out to your politician and say, hey, protect Social Security. We're dependent on it. And that's the only thing we can do is just reach out to our politicians. It's completely up to them. And then therefore it's up to us. Do people not know they've been overpaid? If I saw that, I'd contact Social Security immediately and not spend the overage. Yeah. And they usually get a letter. Yes, they usually get a letter. But with everything happening right now, some people just don't get their letter. So just, check your bank account. Everything is cool. Then go on with your life. They overpaid me $10,000 early next year and went to their office twice, called them several times. They sent me a tax for the amount they overpay me plus the correct amount they paid me. I'm not sure about the tax part. There's no tax necessarily on that. So, and Social Security at least doesn't deal with that type of thing. So if you've got that overpayment, they sent me a fax maybe for the amount they overpay me, plus the correct amount they did pay me. So one offsets the other, but whatever the case may be, you have a $10,000 overpayment. So remember, so you have appeal rights. If you disagree with it, SSA 561 requests a reconsideration, and you say, I'm not overpaid by $10,000. Here's the reason. And they will look at it. If you kind of know, oh yeah, all right, yes, it was, I did whatever. I worked. I wasn't supposed to work, whatever the case may be, but I just can't afford to pay back $10,000 in, one check. So you can call them up and negotiate and say, let's pay it back in 60 months. So just take X amount of money from my Social Security check every month. If you can't afford the 60 months, then you're going to have to do it's the SSA 632, where you can get, the lowest you can get is like $10 a month, basically. And then sometimes people, will never pay it off, but you can't get, blood from a turnip. Some people just can't afford to pay more than $10 a month. And so Social Security looks at that, and sometimes, they get back what they can. But they can't make people homeless, and just because they have an overpayment that may or may not have been their fault. So, let's see. Will I still be deducted or get a letter that I have to pay the whole amount? Yep. Okay. So you're the same person there. So just reach out to them and negotiate. The overpayment and some type of payment plan. Let's see. What about an underpayment? Oh, yes. Thank you. Starting drawing my ex-husband's survivor benefits when I turned 65, I received a letter stating miscalculated and owed me $50 extra dollars. Don't they owe me? Yes, they do. If you receive the letter, that means it's already been done 99% of the time. So when whoever it is, the claim specialist, determines the calculations were wrong, or the computer determines the calculations are wrong and they owe you $50, then they take care of it right there, and they do the input, and then they increase it by $50, and then after that the computer system automatically generates the letter. So if you got the letter, there's a 99% chance you already got that $50. So I would definitely, but if it doesn't, check your bank. A lot of people miss it this time of the year because the COLA and stuff, and they say, well, I saw the increase for the COLA. Is that the COLA? It's only 2.5%. And so do the little calculations and says, oh, okay, wait a second. It's, oh, is the 2.5%? There's more. Oh, that's where that $50 is. So just double check how much you received last year versus, starting January and February, and take into account the 2.5% COLA or any Medicare, the increase on Medicare and stuff like that. And if you're still missing the $50, then definitely reach out to them and get it addressed. Since 27% of older Americans rely solely on Social Security for their retirement, I would say at least 27% then have a dire need if any amount is taken from their check. Yes, good argument, 100%. I wish Sam Cedar would interview Dr. Ed to learn more about all who depend on Social Security, not only retirees, also survivors, DAC. Cedar did a great interview with Martin O'Malley. Yeah, anybody, I'm always up for anything like that to get the word out there. Nelson, what's up, Nelson? Being that they make you wait 5 months before disability, there's definitely dire needs. Yes, there is actually a bill in Congress. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. That they're trying to end that 5 month waiting period for disability. That once you're approved, you're automatically get it. But unfortunately, I don't really see it going anywhere. So let's see here. Do we still have to create an X account to get up to date Social Security information? No, no. Yeah, that was another crazy thing that went out there. There was one of the regional directors, kind of dropped the dime on Doge and said, "Hey, we just got direction that the official, our official thing is X now," which is a giant conflict of interest. And then they walked that one back really, really quick. No, you don't need to get into X or check out X or any of that stuff. No, X account for Linda. Linda asks, X account. What is that? That's Twitter. That's Elon Musk's platform. So no, um, they're you go to SSA.gov and emergency messages and all that stuff. So, and anytime there's an important emergency message like that, this is what I do these videos on. Amber, we have only just started to feel the effects of the tariffs. It takes container ships a month to get here from Asia. The empty store shelves and dramatic increase in trucking layoffs are next. Yeah, this is a tough time. My dad was a long distance truck driver, was a teamster for like 50 years or something, drove an 18-wheeler, and yeah, it's that's a tough business. And it's going to be even a nightmare now that stuff isn't coming in. And the tariffs, those are going to affect Social Security. And obviously the cost of living, everything is going to be more expensive, but next year the COLA may be higher. We don't know yet. There's a lot of social media people out there doing videos on COLA, and it's much ado about nothing until September. How COLA is determined is they look at a basket of goods in September, in the third quarter of last year, third quarter in September 30th. So a basket of goods, the third quarter of last year, 2024, and then in the third quarter of this year, which ends September 30th, they will look at that same basket of goods and determine how much prices have increased. And then they'll do their funky calculations, and that's how they come up with the 2.5% or 8.7% or 3.2% or whatever the case may be. And then they'll announce that in October. So any videos you see out there about COLA and all that stuff is all just speculation and BS until October. But because tariffs are going to increase that basket of goods, there's probably going to be a higher. I just told people to ignore that, but now I'm contradicting myself. Sorry about that. But anyways, but tariffs increase that basket of goods. So therefore, if the tariffs continue, then people say, oh, 2.5%, that's terrible. Well, it's kind of good. It's bad, but it's good in the sense of, well, inflation that basket of goods hasn't really increased. Your basket of goods might have increased, but the basket of goods they use didn't increase that much. That's why it's only 2.55%. A few years ago, it was 8.7. It was like, wow, that's a really good one. Well, that's because inflation was way out of whack and stuff. So, so it's kind of good, but kind of bad-ish, I guess. So, Janet would be added to my check, and I would be receiving only one check. I get $1 more on my check this. Okay, not sure. Let's see here. What else? As a widow, can I take my benefit at 60 and delay my deceased spouse benefits till 70? You cannot take your benefit at 60. You have to wait till 62 to take your own benefit. You can take widow's benefit, surviving spouse benefits at 60. So if you want to start at 60, so here's one option I think you're trying to play around with. You take your spouse benefit or your surviving spouse benefit at 60, you don't touch yours, and your benefit continues to increase until you hit 70. When you hit 70, you switch from your benefit amount or from your surviving spouse benefit to your own benefit amount. Okay. The other way is you go ahead and start your benefit at 62 and you let the surviving spouse benefit increase if it will increase, and it'll stop increasing at your full retirement age or earlier. It depends when your deceased spouse took their benefits. So surviving benefits calculations are a bit strange. So those are your two options. My husband had issues signing up for my Social Security account online. We tried everything you suggested. Couldn't open an account. Called them as well. They said, come into the office to be ID'd at Social Security office. Yeah, sometimes it just, for whatever reason, it just gets completely locked out and messed up and everything. So yeah, sometimes you just have to go down to the local Social Security office. Doesn't happen very often, but yeah, unfortunately. Hi, Ed. What's the typical time after sending short form review to Wilkes-Barre that you're in the clear and won't hit a long form? At what point can you then find out what the diary review date is? All right. So this is a continuing disability review. They sent from one of the big processing centers at Social Security, the national ones, and they just sent you the short form, and they'll look at it and they'll determine whether they have the budget to continue on with the full thing, or if they're interested in doing a full continuing disability review on you. So with all CDRs, as my philosophy always is, forget about it. You've done your part. They sent you the short form. Forget about it. If they send you the longer one that you have to go into more detail, deal with it when you hit that bridge, but don't worry about it. Again, it's not an issue with you necessarily. It's, you have that, you have your diary review date, you're on a 1 year or a 3 year or 5 year or 7 year cycle or whatever the case may be. But even if your time is coming, if Social Security doesn't have the budget, they won't do it. So that's beyond your control. So, what do they always say? Don't stress on things that's beyond your control. But if you don't know your review date, you can call Social Security anytime and talk to someone. And I would probably call the 800 number for that, and say, hey, what's my review date? And they'll give it to you. And then I would also ask them, okay, when, if they say, oh, it's every 3 years, and then sometimes you don't get anything. You're like, wait a second, I've had disability for 6 years and I've never got one. Okay, so it's every 3 years. When does that start? Is it this year's the 3 years, and so I might get one this year? And so you'll ask them what type of rotation you are and when that rotation starts. So just that way you're prepared. But again, no news is good news. Rego, thank you, Dr. Ed. Getting the truth out there is the best help any person who has any benefits. Oh, awesome. The whole thing is just excuses from them. As you know, get our dollars. Yeah, causing a lot of people stress and anxiety on everything. It changes every single day. It's crazy. Hello, Ed. I will turn 65 in May. I collect SSDI. Will SSI turn into Social Security? No, it will not. It will turn into regular Social Security retirement. I just did a video on this yesterday. It'll turn into regular Social Security retirement at your full retirement age. So your full retirement age, I know, is not 65. It's probably 66 to 8 months or 67 or something. So it'll turn there. But you're 65 right now. I always tell people on SSDI, there's certain times when they need to check stuff. If you're on SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, when you're 60, if you're on disability benefits, check to see if you're entitled to any survivor benefits, because you can get disability and survivor benefits. One offsets the other, but you can get both. So when you're 60, check to see if you're entitled to any survivor benefits. When you're 62, check to see if you're entitled to any spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits. When you're 65, check to see if a Medicare supplement plan is a better option for you. Because in most states, if you're on disability under 65, all you can get is a Medicare Advantage plan. But now that you're 65, you're in that golden window where you can get whatever you want. They can't deny you for any pre-existing conditions, and Yeah, that's an American phrase. No other country in the world uses pre-existing conditions. They're called your health, your health history, but we use it as a way to deny people this, that, and the other. But it's crazy. Anyway, but when you're 65, you're in that golden window. They cannot deny you a Medicare supplement plan. They cannot charge you extra or anything like that. So check it out. If it's not for you, if it's not within your budget or anything, then at least you've checked. But this is your golden opportunity to check. That way I always recommend Medicare supplements because those are the ones you don't have prior authorizations. You don't have those limited networks. And I just got word today there was a major court case on a bunch of these giant Medicare call center sweatshops type places that got in big trouble because they were pushing people to Medicare Advantage. If Medicare Advantage is right for you, then it's right for you. But they were specifically pushing people to Medicare Advantage because they make more money on Medicare Advantage, which seems counterintuitive, but anyway, they make more money on Medicare Advantage. So they were directing people to Medicare Advantage and they were ignoring telling people about their other option of Medicare supplement. So, that's companies like that, these big sweatshops like that are the whole reason I just, my son and I said, we need to find some place that's going to, talk to people and tell them all their options. I didn't want to get into all of this, but yeah, Chapter's been doing a phenomenal job. So, so you can call them up or call whoever, set you up with your Medicare plan and say, hey, I'm 65. I can do whatever I want now. What are these Medicare supplement plan N and plan G? And is it right for me? Is it within my budget? Just ask about it. And if it's not right for you, then it's not right for you. So let's see here. I'm jumping around here a little bit. Do they take federal taxes out of SSDI? In Indiana, they do not state tax on SSDI. Just wondering. They don't take them out automatically. You can, let's call it voluntary tax withholding. It's a little form you fill out, W4V, and you just say, hey, I want 7%, 15%, 22% of taxes to be taken out of my Social Security check, but they don't do it automatically. So. And the other thing I was continue that train of thought. So if you're on disability 60, 62, 65, and then obviously, as my video talked about yesterday, once you hit your full retirement age, you're no longer on disability. So you're no longer going to get CDRs. You're no longer going to get, work limitations. You can do whatever you want. You are free. I was blessed, went into local office, an overpayment. My ex-wife passed 2 years ago. What do I need to collect on her? So, I guess a little picture there. I guess that's your ex-wife. Wow, sorry. Wow, you look very happy. So if you think I talked about this, if you're 60 years old, you can collect surviving spouse benefits. Even if your benefit amount is higher, a lot of people collect the surviving spouse benefits and they don't touch theirs and they let theirs, they're already higher, get higher and higher. So that is one option. But with all of these early retirement type things, you're limited in terms of work. You have to stay under the annual earnings limit, the 23,400, or the monthly earnings limit, or whatever the case may be. So there are those limitations. Other than that, obviously there's that the lump sum death payment, that embarrassingly low $255. Yeah. So seeing that neither the Democrats nor the Republicans have been doing anything about improving Social Security, we should start thinking about getting behind a third party independent. Yeah. I mean, there's, whatever their philosophical leanings are of either political party, the proof is in the pudding. Are there going to be cuts in Social Security by 2033 or 2034? Yes, because the Social Security Trust Fund is being run out. It wasn't stolen. We need to get serious. It's just savings that the baby boomers put away. And with any savings, you use it, it depletes. It doesn't last forever. Social Security will still continue. They'll still be able to pay out 80% or so, but going to get a nice hefty little cut, not a nice, hefty cut in your Social Security benefits because both parties failed us, or we failed keeping both parties, yeah, accountable. So yeah, that's why I say I'm they, one party said they were going to do it, and the other party said they're going to do this other thing. I don't care. They didn't do what needed to do. Yeah. Anyway, are they making everyone get on privatized Medicare health insurance plan? I've always been against it, but should I start signing up early before I wind up with no health care? Okay. Um, if you sign up for Original Medicare, Part A and Part B, if that's all you want is Medicare Part A and Part B, okay, but hopefully you got a whole bunch of money under your, mattress somewhere, or you've got TRICARE for life, retired military, or, you've got Medicaid or something like that. But if all you have is Medicare Part A and Part B, then you're going to need something to supplement that, a privatized Medicare health insurance. And those come in two flavors: Medicare supplement plans. Those are private companies that covers, the gaps of Original Medicare. But with those, you keep Original Medicare. You keep essentially Part A and Part B, and the Medicare supplement plan just pays, the gaps. That's why they call it a Medigap. Or a Medicare Advantage plan, which is also privatized health insurance. And that essentially replaces Part A and Part B. So you don't get it directly from Part A and Part B, you get it directly from that Medicare Advantage plan. And if you ever watched Dr. Oz's show, who is the new boss of Medicare, he has always been a very, very big fan of Medicare Advantage plans. So if that's kind of what you're asking, then yeah, we shall see. So, I mean, if the main problem with Medicare Advantage plans is the prior authorizations and the networks. A lot of people are happy with their Medicare Advantage plans, and perfect, awesome. But the prior authorizations, that you have to ask basically the health insurance companies second guesses your doctors, and the networks, the ever declining networks out there. You can only go this, that, and the other. With a Medicare supplement, you can go anywhere you want. That any place that takes Medicare. Yep. All right. My wife working for the state. Michael says, Semper Fi, Sergeant Ed. You're Semper Fi, hoorah. My wife working for the state of Illinois for 27 years on Medicaid, SNAP, and other welfare system. She says to appeal everything. She has seen many things she was forced to deny rule after. Appeal. If you disagree with a decision, 100% appeal it, because nobody knows more about your particular situation than you. And particularly now with Social Security, where they just don't have the staff. They are just running through applications and processing claims. They just don't have time to do things right, unfortunately. And I think that's what politicians are. They're trying to break the system, and they're doing a pretty good job at it. So, you've got something that, on your particular case, you've lived and you know everything about it. A decision is made by a claim specialist in your local office, and they looked at your case for 4.5 minutes. And then they made this decision because they've got another 400 cases on their desk that they have to finish by the end of the day. So yes, take Inlay's wife's recommendation to heart. Yes. No attorney around to help me fight for my husband's widow's benefits. We were married after CIR Washington State. After a CIR. Lawyers, if you contact Social Security type lawyers, they all focus on disability. And because that's where they make their money, they get 25% of back pay when you get approved, and up to $9,200. I think they just changed it to $9,200. A lawyer, any lawyer will take it if you give them a whole bunch of money. But yeah, the reason they take disability claims is because if you get approved, they will get that money. But on your widow benefits, there's no money in it for you. For them, unless you say, hey, I want to hire an attorney to do this, and I'll give you $10,000 to do it. And I'm sure they'll do it. I'm sure there's tons of attorneys, but yeah, but in that particular case, so CR, I'm not sure. Are we talking common law, CIR, Washington State? I'm not sure what CIR. So, yeah, it was at the law change. Yeah, I'm not sure what Washington State law you're talking about, but yeah, if in terms, if this is a marriage type of issue that they're denying it, um, then if Washington says, Washington State, you are married based on state laws because of this, that, and the other, then Social Security has to abide by state law. In terms of marriage and divorce, Social Security does not have any policy on that. Their only policy is they abide by state laws. So in some states you have common law marriages, some states you don't, and yeah, all the rest of it. So they go by state law. So they're supposed to have to abide by state law. If they didn't and you disagree with it, follow Inlay's wife's recommendation, and yes, appeal, and go all the way to administrative law judge, and all the way to the appeals council, and all the way to the Supreme Court. Went to the Social Security office today. Several were there at 6:30. No appointment. They wouldn't let anyone in without appointment. Very sad. They had no idea how to manage a computer or get a call back. Very sad. Yeah. If you have a dire need case, if you contacted your congressperson before that, if you're active duty military, if it's a Terry case, if you're about to be evicted and all that kind of stuff, they should have let some people in. If that wasn't you, then some of those people that were waiting at 6:30 needed help that day, and they 100% should not have turned you away. That is the policy. They're not supposed to turn you away in those particular cases. So yeah, that office is doing the wrong thing, unfortunately. The chaos this administration has created in America is unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, the first 100 days for Social Security has been crazy. I don't see how anybody could deny that. And in Silicon Valley world, that's how they do it. Move fast and break things. That's their philosophy for computer system. Changing the paradigm of this, that, and the other. That's how they do it. That's been their MO. Move fast and break things. Okay, that's Silicon Valley. That's technology and all that kind of stuff. But we're talking about people's lives here. We're talking about people's money that they need to pay the rent and buy the food and turn on the electricity and get their medicine. So they've taken that philosophy to Social Security and said, let's move fast and break things. And this is the result. And if you can justify that, go for it. Put your comments in. Yeah. I turned 65 in August. I think California full age is 67. Do I get divorced spouse now or wait till 67? So for divorced spouse, you have to file for benefits on your own record first, because you're not talking about surviving spouse. You're just talking about divorced spouse. So you have to file for benefits on your own record first. And then if you're eligible for the divorced spouse, then you get those benefits, and one offsets the other. So hi, Ed. My ex died March 31st. I received a letter in April saying I would be getting his Social Security benefits, but it didn't say anything, not say when it will start, and did not ask for any information. Ex died. So probably this was auto adjudicate. You are already receiving benefits on his record as a divorced spouse. And what happens is, because you're already on the record, then it's an auto adjudicate. The system will automatically update it, because you're receiving as a spouse from a living person, you're receiving up to 50%. And now that he's deceased, you can receive up to 100%. So you don't need to do anything. It's automatic. Just watch out for that check and make sure you actually get that increase in benefits. And if you don't, then reach out to them. But it's an auto adjudicate, as we used to call it. Spoke with Miss Kelly here in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and she was wonderful. I praised her and shared your YouTube site with her. Like and subscribe and smash the cap. Oh, okay. Miss Kelly in New Bedford. One of was that a Social Security employee or somebody from chapter or just someone you met on the street? I have to come up with. You see these Medicare, particularly during the Medicare season, um, the Medicare plan health insurance people out there in Walmart and different places, and they always have the button that says "Ask me about Medicare." And the reason they have that is because they can't tell you about Medicare like that, about Medicare plans until you actually ask them. So if you see the little booth at your local drugstore or something, and the person is just sitting there staring at the walls, and you're like, "Wow, that person is a terrible salesperson." No, they are heavily regulated. They've got the little thing that says, "Ask me about Medicare," and if you say, "Hey, what about Medicare?" Then they'll jump up. Yeah, hey, yeah, Medicare Advantage, Medicare something. They'll start talking to you about. But until then, they can't talk to you about it. But where was I going with this? So they have those Medicare "Ask me about Medicare" buttons. So we should come up with one that says "Ask me about Social Security," and then put a little QR code on it, and then take them to our YouTube channel, and our new website that I will get it done soon. Ed, can you drop Medicare if you have regular health insurance? Oh, you can drop Medicare. It's not mandatory, but it's mandatory in the sense that if you decide to pick it up later, you might be penalized. But so maybe this is what you're asking. So you got your Medicare after, at 65 or whatever, and now let's say you're 70 years old and you just got hired by a company that has health insurance. Yes, you can stop your health insurance, you can stop your Medicare, put it in, suspense basically, and say, "Yes, I don't need, Part A, you can't because that's free anyway, zero premium. But the Part B, why pay for the $185 Part B? And then, if you already have health insurance that you're happy with." But I would also, if that's the case, I would also reach out to your company, your HR person, and say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing." Because sometimes those health insurance companies, they want you, they mandate you, they give you extra benefits if you have Medicare because they want to push costs over to Medicare. So I would definitely check out with HR first and see if they're good with that. And then I would check out your particular situation, call whoever helped you with Medicare, call chapter, and they can kind of walk you through the, whatever state laws or something. If you have like a Medicare supplement, can you get it back later and stuff like that? So yeah, it's we used to say in the Marine Corps, you can do anything you want, but there might be a road to the brig or push-ups or something like that in the future for you. I think it's going to be a depression, not a recession. Yeah, Texas refugee. Yeah. Yeah, what's the difference? Was a recession is 3/4 and depression is over 3/4 of downward. Yeah, so let's see, and we are over. Wow, we're over an hour, and I like to keep these down to an hour. And I've got tons of questions. Unfortunately, we didn't get to. Let me get one more here. I don't think I recognize Rob. He's maybe a new person, so I will get my first Social Security check in July, June benefit. Good, perfect. I pay my Medicare Part B quarterly and will get a bill that will run out June, July, August. Should I just pay for the June since my Social Security will take out in July? Yes. Yes. That way there is no mistake that you did pay for it, because that's the only way, you can get in trouble is not actually paying for your Part B there. So just to be on the safe side, I would go ahead and do it. And then when you get your check from Social Security, they will start withholding it. So they'll withhold it, and then they'll look at the system, and then the computer system will look and they say, "Hey, Rob already paid for this month, on a check, on the quarterly thing." And then he was charged a second time. And what will happen is they will credit that back to you. And it takes a little bit of time, but they'll credit back. You'll get that money back. So you won't pay anything twice. But just to be on the safe side, I would probably just go ahead and do it. So, CIR, thank you. Common intimate relationship, common law. Okay, that's what they call it in Washington state, common law. Yeah, if there is common law in Washington at that particular time, some states did have common law, then they don't, and it's all crazy. But yeah, if they have it, and I wouldn't worry about necessarily you it sounds like you probably already know the laws of Washington and everything, but Social Security, part of their POMS, their policy net, which is that 20,000 pages of policy that Social Security has, they have a listing of every state and common law requirements on every single state. So you can provide whatever information, but they'll have to go, whoever helps you out at Social Security will just go through the POMS reference and say, okay, in Washington, from this time to this time, Washington recognized common intimate relationship, common law marriages, and you will need this type of proof, this type of proof. And Social Security already has all of that type of resources and documentation available. So, yeah. And if somebody denied you um, and you think they're wrong, appeal, appeal, appeal. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much. And please, please, please take care of each other, and we'll see you again.